An art form in which movement, gesture and intonation are used, acting is a key tenet of big screen storytelling and predates filmmaking by thousands of years. We've scoured all ages, decades and genres to bring you the 10 greatest acting performances of all time. Some big name performers don't deal in method acting or chameleonic performances, but trade in looks, charisma and an engaging screen presence. These are movie stars, they sell tickets, and it's the movie star performance we're looking at to get the ball rolling. The biggest movie star of his generation, Paul Newman delivered one of his definitive performances in Cool Hand Luke. Audrey Hepburn played a New York socialite and created some of the most iconic movie images in Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Marlon Brando combined sublime acting and movie star charisma to leave an indelible mark on cinema in The Godfather. Our selection, though, wasn't a difficult choice. Making this up as he goes along in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's Harrison Ford.
Indy, why does the floor move?
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Coming on the back of his career-making turn as Han Solo in 2 Star Wars films, Harrison Ford was cast by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg as their next heroic creation, adventuring archaeologist Indiana Jones. Starring in one of the biggest films of its decade, Ford's acting and line delivery are excellent, but it's his rarely matched screen presence that truly shines. Looking about as great as anybody could, donning a fedora, leather jacket and bullwhip, Ford's performance as Indy delivers high-octane action, heartfelt drama and expert comic timing as he carries one of Spielberg's most beloved films in a masterclass of movie star charisma. The title role in a classic series, a truly iconic character, and the greatest movie star performance of all time.
It's not the years. It's the mileage.
Sometimes talent emerges very early in an actor's career. Some actors' most famous performances come before they reach adulthood, and it's child performances we're analysing for our 9th spot. Hailee Steinfeld burst onto the scene to hold her own against Hollywood heavyweights in True Grit. Jodie Foster gave signs of the incredible career that was to follow in Taxi Driver. And Tatum O'Neal is still the youngest ever Oscar winner for her performance in Paper Moon. We're heading to a horror classic for our pick though. It's the outstanding child performance in The Exorcist by Linda Blair.
What is it? What is it?
Acclaimed as one of the greatest horror movies ever made, The Exorcist relies on chilling performances from its cast to deliver its scares, and Linda Blair's portrayal of Regan, a young girl possessed by an evil demon, is pivotal to that. Just 14 years old at the time, Blair's conveyance of happy-go-lucky child through worried hospital patient into foul-mouthed, vomiting, abusive demon is equal parts horrific, breathtaking, and mesmerising to witness. Having fought off a host of child stars to win the role, Blair teamed up with voice actress Mercedes McCambridge to create an unforgettable antagonist and gain an Oscar nomination. One of horror's most memorable villains, an astonishing display of range, and one of the greatest child acting performances in movies.
Damien!
Amen.
Appearing in a single scene can't be easy, and, if done improperly, can halt a story in its tracks. Done well though, the cameo appearance can steal a film, and it's the cameo we're looking at for number 8 on our list. Matthew McConaughey improvised his way to one of the most parodied cameos in The Wolf of Wall Street. Ned Beatty was Oscar nominated for one day's work and a 4-page speech in Network, and a monologue about a gold watch allowed Christopher Walken to deliver an unforgettable 4 minutes in Pulp Fiction. Our pick, however, is a tough racket. It's the brief but blistering appearance in Glengarry Glen Ross from Alec Baldwin.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Depicting 2 days in the lives of 4 real estate salesmen, Glengarry Glen Ross is based on a Pulitzer-winning David Mamet play and is at its most explosive when top seller Blake is sent to shake up the sales team. Mamet wrote the scene specifically for the movie, and his unmistakable prose and savage humour provide the perfect platform But it's Baldwin's Blake who, in a 7-minute diatribe of personal insults and manhood stripping, very nearly steals the entire film with a portrayal of cruelty, sociopathy and narcissism as incendiary as in any other film. Extraordinary dialogue, the single most quotable scene in movies, and the greatest cameo performance in Hollywood history.
You call yourself a salesman, you son of a bitch?
Usually, acting careers start with small, unobtrusive roles, working up to leading men and ladies. On occasion though, a young performer bursts onto the scene with such blinding brilliance that they become stars overnight. Orson Welles directed, co-wrote and acted his way to Hollywood legend status in Citizen Kane. Jennifer Hudson erupted into acting with an Oscar-winning performance in Dreamgirls, and Marlee Matlin was the first deaf and still youngest recipient of a Best Actress Oscar for Children of a Lesser God. Our pick for number 7 though is a debut performance as beloved and iconic as it gets. With a spoonful of sugar as Mary Poppins, it's Julie Andrews.
Why do you always complicate things that are really quite simple? Give me your hand, please, Michael. Don't slouch. 1, 2...
Faced with the prospect of a new carer entering their lives, the Banks children are thrilled with the arrival of a quirky, magical nanny who calls herself Mary Poppins. Known only within Broadway circles at the time, Julie Andrews burst into Hollywood and the hearts of audiences everywhere with her extraordinary portrayal of the endearing, whimsical nanny. Displaying charming chemistry with the child and adult actors alike, Andrews shines in creating one of cinema's most memorable characters with a blend of sweetness, sternness, and a pitch-perfect singing voice that gained her global recognition and a Best Actress Oscar. Practically perfect in every way, one of cinema's most cherished characters, and a truly timeless debut performance.
Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way.
Sometimes, a movie doesn't rely on a lead actor or actress. There's no hero, heroine, or standout villain. Sometimes a film tells a multi-character story, and it's the ensemble cast we're discussing for our 6th place. An eclectic bunch of San Fernando Valley residents have a day they'll never forget in Magnolia. A group of World War II soldiers band together to fight for their survival in the Thin Red Line, and in The Royal Tenenbaums, a family of geniuses set aside 2 decades of estrangement for an unexpected reunion. For our winner though, it's a 90s iconic classic from writer-director Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction.
I do believe Marcellus, my husband, your boss, told you to take me out and do whatever I wanted. And now I want to dance, I want to win, I want that trophy. So dance good.
Telling a tale of the intersecting lives of gangsters in LA's seedy underbelly, Pulp Fiction pulls together one of the most iconic cast rosters in history. A non-linear story of redemption and violence, Tarantino's Oscar-winning script sizzles with characterizations, humor, and quotable dialogue, all brilliantly brought to life by a main cast that includes Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, John Travolta, and Bruce Willis, mostly delivering career-making performances, and a wider cast of strangely superb supporting roles and cameos. A decade-defining movie, some of the most iconic dialogue ever delivered, and an all-time great ensemble cast performance.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Into the top 5, and we're casting our eye over the movie villain. A story is only as good as its antagonist, so they say, and the villainous performance has given us some of the greatest acting in movies. Heath Ledger redefined an iconic character and won a posthumous Oscar for The Dark Knight. Jack Nicholson portrayed alcoholism and mental illness as chillingly as any actor has in The Shining. And in Psycho, Anthony Perkins created a villain as layered and complex as he is shockingly unforgettable. It's from a retelling of one of the darkest periods in history where we've chosen our winner though. From Schindler's List and playing a World War II Nazi camp commandant, it's Ralph Fiennes. A factory owner who saved Jewish workers from extermination, Oskar Schindler is the real-life hero of the film, his good deeds juxtaposed against the vile SS commandant, Amon Goeth. Difficult to believe now that Schindler's List was only Fiennes' third cinematic role, given the size and power of his performance. Playing a Nazi who was the definition of evil, Fiennes is unnervingly compelling in portraying the cold, calculated and cruel Goeth as a smug, preening, conceited man with more depth and ambiguity than the real Goeth ever deserved. Incredible dedication to the craft, spine-chilling realism, and the greatest villainous performance of them all. The comic performance is a balancing act between the silly and the sublime, the funny and the tragic. Too often overlooked, comedy actors can have a difficult time gaining recognition, so it's the comic acting performance that fills our fourth position. Great comic actor Jack Lemmon delivered his greatest comic performance in Some Like It Hot. Eddie Murphy improvised his way to Hollywood megastardom in Beverly Hills Cop, and dramatic actor Leslie Nielsen reinvented himself as a master of deadpan comedy in Airplane. For our comedy pick though, it's one of the most iconic performances in movies, comedy or otherwise. It's the triple threat performance in Dr. Strangelove from Peter Sellers.
Careful, Mr. President. I think he's drunk.
Hello, Dimitri. Listen, I can't hear too well. Do you suppose you could turn the music down just a little?
Perhaps best known for portraying bumbling Inspector Clouseau across 6 Pink Panther movies, Peter Sellers' greatest comedic role actually came in Stanley Kubrick's Cold War satire. Sellers' 3 performances showcased the full extent of his comic genius, each role requiring a different persona and demeanour to the last. From bland President Muffley through calm Captain Mandrake to overly eccentric Dr. Strangelove, the common element is Sellers, his extraordinary comic timing, and his unmatched talent for ad-libbing, usually unheard of in Kubrick movies. The greatest multi-role performance, astonishing improvisation, and the most iconic comedic acting in movies.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
One of the oldest forms of human expression, acting dates back thousands of years, and certainly pre-New Hollywood. Some of cinema's biggest icons hailed from classic era Hollywood, so that's where we're headed for third place. Peter O'Toole carried a grand epic masterpiece as the lead in Lawrence of Arabia. Gloria Swanson played a fading movie star laced with humour and tragedy in Sunset Boulevard, and Elizabeth Taylor went method to portray marital angst and win an Oscar in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. All-time legendary acting names there, and for our winner, we've got another Oscar-winning lead performance from On the Waterfront. It's Marlon Brando.
You was my brother, Charlie. You should have looked out for me a little bit. You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
An actor who could have appeared in this list for several roles, it's Brando's performance as ill-educated former prizefighter Terry Malloy that shines brightest. Engaging and entertaining as ever, Brando carries the film like any great leading man would, but it's the astonishing nuance and sensitivity he brings to Terry that truly elevates the performance. Sensitive enough to attract Eva Marie Saint's Eddie, and also tough enough that we believe he used to fight people for a living, Brando delivered a masterclass of method acting, still analysed by students today. One of the most influential actors in Hollywood, one of the most iconic monologues ever delivered, and the greatest performance in classic Hollywood.
You're a cheap, lousy, dirty, stinking mug! And I'm glad what I've done to you!
We've looked at some incredible acting performances, but movies don't just rely on their leads. The supporting cast are hugely important, and sometimes a stunning performance from a great supporting actor can dominate a film. Dustin Hoffman brought his trademark charisma to play an enigmatic conman in Midnight Cowboy. Beatrice Straight won an Oscar for just 5 minutes of blistering screen time in Network, and Eli Wallach delivered one of the most iconic supporting characters of all in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Our runner-up though in his greatest supporting role. From The Godfather Part 2, it's Robert De Niro.
We're fine.
Faced with the unenviable task of following an iconic Marlon Brando and starring alongside an all-star cast, De Niro still stands out as the young Vito Corleone. Telling a story chronicling Vito's rise from Italian immigrant to New York mob boss, De Niro spent 3 months in Sicily learning the language and customs before channeling his trademark charismatic intensity into the Don, creating a character at once relatable and ruthless, all but stealing the film, and leading De Niro to his first Oscar win. An iconic performance, history-making award recognition, and the greatest supporting role in Hollywood. We're here, the number 1 position, and our overall winner comes from the protagonist role. The ability to carry a film effectively requires a special talent, and many of the most iconic acting performances in history have came from actors playing leading roles. Meryl Streep's reputation as one of the greatest actors who ever lived started with Sophie's Choice. Al Pacino shouldered the most epic gangster movie of them all in The Godfather Part 2, and in Malcolm X, Denzel Washington was Oscar nominated for his portrayal of one of the most iconic figures in US history. Any of those could have finished at number 1, but as our overall winner, it's a 21st century entry. Playing the lead in There Will Be Blood, it's a monumental performance from Daniel Day-Lewis.
Say it louder! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
Spanning 5 decades, Daniel Day-Lewis' movie acting career is characterized by its consistency and diversity, and reached an incredible peak with his portrayal of oil tycoon Daniel Plainview. A brooding, understated masterpiece from Paul Thomas Anderson, it's Day-Lewis' performance as the sociopathic oil prospector that is the jewel in the film's crown. Playing a man who sells his soul to line his pockets, Day-Lewis creates a character that reflects the movie, portraying quiet contemplation 1 minute and unbridled explosive rage the next. A great actor's greatest character, a powerhouse screen presence, and for us, the greatest acting performance of all time.
I'm finished.
Do you agree with our selections? Have we included your favourites or left out others worthy of mention? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe, like and share for more All the Right Movies videos.